All right, welcome to the second episode of season 2 of Overrated. My name is Sujay, and I'm joined once again by Girish and Surya. And in this episode, we're going to be discussing Shrek 2, starring Mike Myers, Eddie Murphy, and Cameron Diaz, directed by Andrew Adamson, Conrad, Vernon, and Kelly Asbury. Before we get into the movie, I know a lot of people might be wondering why we're doing Shrek 2 and not Shrek 1, so I wanted to address that first. So I said, while Shrek 2 is a very good and memeable movie on its own, very few times, especially in an animated movie franchise, does the sequel excel the original as much as I believe Shrek 2 does with Shrek 1. It's like comparing the New Testament to the Old Testament. And yeah, I just compared Shrek to the Bible, but that's how much I believe Shrek 2 is better. We might talk about Shrek at some point during this podcast, but we'll be strictly speaking about Shrek 2 on this one. Do you guys share that belief, or am I alone?
Shrek 2 is the better Shrek.
I honestly don't even remember what Shrek 1 was like because it was just such a long time ago. I haven't watched it again recently. It was kind of like the same with Shrek 2 as well, but I gotta admit, it's a great movie. So.
Shrek 2 has a much more rewatchability than Shrek 1, in my opinion. Because the jokes still land every time you watch.
Yeah, I agree. So we can go into some categories then. We'll start with Where Were You? So this is like a little story about Shrek 2 and the first time I watched it. So the way that my family bought DVDs back in the day was in waves. So we'd buy a few DVDs and then wait a few years and then buy some more. So in the wave that we bought Shrek 2 in, I was 9 or 10 years old, and we bought Shrek 2, Madagascar, and Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban. So these were the three movies I watched for 3 years between ages 9 and 12. And so during this time period, we went to India, and my grandparents didn't have cable with TV with English channels, so they had a DVD player. So we brought these movies with us, and over the 3 weeks that I was there, I watched the other two maybe once or twice, but I watched Shrek 2 at least 6 times during that entire trip. Not even scenes, just start to finish, the whole thing. So yeah, I was pretty invested into it. It's so funny, just the rewatchability is there for that many times.
I think for me, I think this is one of the few movies when I don't know when I watched it, I just knew I had watched it at a young point. And do you know what I'm talking about? Those kinds of things where you've done it.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, all the pop culture and stuff, you just kind of just appeared into your life. So I don't remember my first watch at all, but I know for a fact I watched it when the whole Shrek trilogy was coming out, because I remember watching the third one too, in order. But the first time I remember watching it was a little more recent. It was in high school. I can't remember what year it was, maybe junior year, but it was the end of the semester in band, and our teacher just didn't give a crap, or maybe. It wasn't the semester. No, he was out with some event, and he had the substitute come in, and we were supposed to watch Shrek the musical or something. And Susha was like, "Yo, I have Shrek 2 the actual on DVD. Can we watch?" The substitute didn't know. I was like, "Do you think you're?" She's like, "Yeah, sure." And we just watched Shrek 2 in class, and I saw it, dude. There were some jokes that definitely flew in my head as a kid, but watching it again, it's just so funny.
Wait, so you had the DVD on you, or you had to bring it in the next day?
No, so the stories that we were watching movies that entire week, because he was out, so we were watching different movies, and gotcha. So we had planned to watch Shrek the musical Friday or whatever, and so I have Shrek 2 on DVD, like I said. So I was I'll bring it that day and just ask the substitute if we can watch it in class. Mm-hmm. And she was like, okay, I guess.
She was like, yeah.
What class was this in, by the way?
This is band. That's why I was Shrek the musical at first, because for some reason, first off, I kind of want to watch the Shrek musical.
It's so I haven't seen the whole thing. I watched the first maybe 10 minutes of it. It was just so grotesque, because it's just a dude dressed up as Shrek. And it's so hard to just see that and be yeah, this is normal.
Yeah, but I think that's why he was we want to Shrek the musical, because it's the musical, so it has some pertinent value. And we just
to be fair, the original movie has a lot of musical value as well, if you ask me.
Yeah, I guess.
Yeah, and I definitely had a point about that later, but yeah.
It's more of a satire though on musicals, kind of.
I think all Shrek movies are kind of a satire. It's supposed to be
the second one is the second one is the biggest commentary on society I've ever seen in my life.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Surya, what about you?
So yeah, I gotta say, like, I'm in the same boat as Girish here. Like, this just appeared in my life at some point. Um, if I had to guess, I would say I probably watched it in theaters, but there were a few Shrek movies that I watched on DVD as well. I can't remember like which ones were which. I'm pretty sure Shrek 1 was probably a DVD. I'm assuming Shrek 2 was probably in theaters, but I mean, at the time that I watched it, I definitely like went out of it thinking it was a great movie. But like at the same time, when I was so young, I thought like every movie I saw was a great movie. So watching it again recently, I was kind of going into it with like a grain of salt, just kind of like understanding that, okay, this was like a long time ago. It might not hold up the same way, but I gotta admit, like, it still did, and I was pretty surprised by that.
Yeah, for sure. We can then move to score it. So I'm using the same like kind of like scale that we used like last season. So like good movies are still like 90 plus and whatever. And like I was thinking about it, and when I watched this full movie, I was like, I had a moment. I was like, why are we doing this like as a memeable movie? Like this is a genuinely good movie. And then I remember like, oh, it's Shrek. That's why. But yeah, I thought it was like definitely rewatchability and like jokes wise, it's like up there. So I said 85 for my personal score. I think some season like in movies we did last season, I didn't even rate that high. So yeah, that's what I said.
Yeah, it's pretty high for me too. Like, if you ignore it, like, okay, the plot it's okay. It's a regular Disney movie plot, but the whole like it's like a paradox because the whole point of the movie is that making fun of like pop culture, so they can get away with having like this loosely held plot because they're like just so stupid. So it's like it defines itself as knowing that it's not supposed to be the most logical thing, but it just has so many jokes that add on top of that. So like it's such a funny movie, and so like I'd probably give it like a 90, honestly.
No, all right.
Yeah, it's like I think Sujay said last time, like above 50 is like if it was on TV, like you'd watch it. 100% I'd watch it if it was on TV. Like if I had nothing to do and I saw this on TV, I just sit there and watch the whole thing. It's a good movie.
Yeah, I have to agree there because, like, I personally gave it like an 87. I know that Girish mentioned that like during the whole duration of the movie, like it's pretty satirical in nature. But I personally also really liked the plot as well. It was fast paced, kind of like how you'd expect for like a kid movie, but at the same time, like it talks about themes that like even like if you got older, you can like kind of like understand and relate to. So I think I really liked it for that reason. And of course, like there were also several memeable moments. So
Yeah.
Always good to see those.
Yeah, for sure. It's gonna be like our segue into let's talk about the plot. But like one thing I really like in movies is when they don't waste time in the plot. Like there's not scenes that just like have nothing to do with anything and they're just there for jokes. And like Shrek kind of like does that like the whole way through. There's nothing like extra or anything. Everything's pretty valid for the plot, or it's just like straight up a good joke. Like I would not cut it out of the movie. But yeah, now we can go into let's talk about the plot. So this is just my like synopsis of it. If you haven't seen Shrek or if you don't remember it and want to get a quick overview of what it was. So after saving the princess from the tower in Shrek 1, Shrek returns to the swamp and finds out that Fiona's parents want to give their blessing. When the king finds out that Shrek is an ogre, he disapproves, which causes Shrek to take a potion to become human. Meanwhile, the fairy godmother wants her son, Prince Charming, to marry Fiona, so Shrek has to foil her plan and come to terms with being ogre in the same process. So that's the quick like 5-minute pitch for it. But yeah, we can talk about some memeable. Like I think this is a good concept for the movie too. Like it's different than the first one. It tackles different issues. It's not just a standard like quest like thing. It's more as it's an internal quest, if you will, for Shrek.
I do like about the movie how in terms of the plot, like you said, like they don't waste any time, but also like a main thing is that every character you're introduced to is like an important. Well, every character they spend like a scene on is like an important point in the movie. Because even like near the end when they have the whole bar scene, like when he goes to the bar, like that's when like you meet Puss in Boots in the book, and he's like a main character in the movie.
Mhm.
They actually really do a good job of like character development while advancing the plot. So I think that hits on pretty well.
Yeah, I mean, like for me personally, like the only real issue I have with it is kind of like the way they introduced Puss, actually.
Yeah.
Because for me, it was like, okay, you're expecting this character, like it's Puss in Boots, right? Like,
Yeah.
you know it.
I'm
but-
pretty sure I knew Puss in Boots before the movie came out. Like,
right.
yeah,
Like, he would have been on posters and whatnot, but
yeah.
like the whole thing about how he tries to like take out Shrek, like that just did not play out at all. Like, so if you're like the king and you pay this hitman to like do this, like you would expect him to be good at his job. So like that, like if it was like a little more played out and like it was like more of a struggle, I think I would like give into it a little more. But that was really like my only main issue with as far as like developing characters. But after that, it was like pretty smooth. I had no issues with.
That's a good pick for overrated scene. I didn't actually think about that. That's a good point.
Yeah.
But yeah. Okay, we can talk about some of the memeable scenes and quotes. So first one is the for 5 minutes when they're going to the castle and he's like, "Could you not want to be yourself for 5 minutes?" I've seen a lot of memes surrounded that, so I think that's a big one. I also said the dinner with the parents for the first time, and they're all saying each other's names. That was pretty funny. You guys can say some of yours if you want.
Oh yeah. I agree. I think unlike the B movie when we talked about last week, when we said that you like jazz is like not that funny, like it just became a meme.
Mm-hmm.
The donkey meme is so good. Like the one who's like, "Could you not be yourself?" That's a good scene, and like it ended up being a pretty decent meme. Talking about like other memes though, yeah, the dinner scene's good. I actually think my favorite in the whole movie, I don't know if it's a meme, like it's just one of the funny scenes in the movie, is there's 2 points. They're both near the end, and it's near like the climax of the movie. So the first one that I think is the like funniest of them all is when they're like breaking them out of prison, and like the 3 blind mice come. It is just a blind joke, and like I don't know why, but that's just so funny.
But every time they're on screen, like
every time the blind,
that's the guy.
You know
like
what's about to happen. Like
I know, but still, like
they're setting up
so
a blind joke.
They build up like this Mission Impossible kid, and they send blind mice. That's like one of my fun. That's probably the funniest scene in the movie for me. And then the second one is the whole the coverage of the like live action chase.
The cop scene, yeah, I had that too.
That's so good because like first off, like it's a huge spoof, and like they hit everything on the nail. And then they arrest Puss in Boots, and there's like, "We found catnip." And then,
but what I realized is like in that scene as well as like a lot of other scenes, what they do is they just like pack so many jokes into like such a short time frame. So like first off, like it's like a spoof of cops. It's called Knights. That's how it starts. Second off, they say we have a white Bronco going west, and it's like actually a white Bronco. Like it's so O.J. Simpson, but it's like an actual white Bronco because it's a donkey. And then they use the pepper grinder for the pepper spray. It's just like over him like with the pepper grinder. And then they have the catnip. So like it just like all that happens in like 30 seconds, and you're like, wait, there's so much. But yeah, I had that as well.
I also really love their entire spoof of like Far Far Away, and it's basically just Hollywood.
Yeah.
And they just have so many pop culture references like every time they show that place that it's so on the money sometimes.
Yeah, the jokes are pretty well crafted. The one I had written down on my end, I don't know if you guys picked up on this, but when they got the happily ever after potion, like Shrek reads out the label, right? And as he's reading it out, he says, "Happily ever after potion, maximum strength for you and your true love." And the potion's blue.
Yeah.
Like, think about it for a minute.
Is it like supposed to be Viagra?
Yeah, I mean that's what I immediately thought of. I don't know.
I don't know. I didn't think that far ahead, but when you say it like that is it. I did think they were heavily pushing at that, but I couldn't.
I mean, like, who says maximum strength? Like, just give me that. So.
That's good.
What would have really sold it is if they had like an extra label on it. It's like if side effects last for more than 4 hours, like please contact your doctor. That would have been a good joke to add.
It did have some side effects, but I don't think they connected it to that. At least.
I never thought that far ahead, but I thought I saw them trying to set it up, but I didn't think the what you said, like the blue. I didn't know if that was like the punch.
I mean, that was probably looking too far into it, but
I definitely like they definitely looked like they were trying to set up like an ED joke or something.
Yeah.
There's like another quote from the factory scene that I really liked. It was like when they first enter and they're like, yeah, we're with the union. We represent workers in all magical industries, both evil and benign. And he's like, do you feel at all degraded?
Yeah.
And he's like, yeah, we don't have dental. He's like, they don't even have dental.
That's
so funny. Like
that whole scene is so, I don't understand how there's so many like iconic moments and like all of them are just still like make you laugh, you know? It's like
they're well-crafted jokes. Like that's what it is.
That's what it is. Like it's just a well-written movie.
Also, the fact that this was like made in 2008 and the jokes
2004. 2004, yeah.
2004?
Yeah. It was ahead of its time.
The jokes still hold up really well. But yeah.
Most memorable scene out of all those, I think I'll choose like for meme quality, I'll say the 4 or 5 minutes because I've seen that a lot in memes. But like funniest was definitely the cop scene for me.
Oh yeah,
I agree with you. I think the best meme template is the 4 because that's like something you can apply in like everyday situations. Like it's kind of hard to meme other scenes in the movie, but yeah, like that's definitely the most memeable scene. And like I said earlier, I think for me the funniest scene was like anytime the blind mice were on, but especially the Mission Impossible.
I mean, I actually didn't even pick up on all the nuances of like the police chase scene because, like you said, like the white Bronco thing, I did not make that connection.
Yeah, I actually read that in trivia, and I've heard it before, and I was like, yeah, I this is familiar, but like, there's like it means other stuff.
I forgot that it was the OJ thing, but I knew like the white Bronco was like a type of car, and so I was like, oh, like that makes sense because I feel like I have heard that before, but I totally forgot the whole like that was the OJ stuff, yeah.
It reminded me.
It was also kind of funny to see like the people at Shrek's house, like all the like the friends, like they're expecting to see like this big grand ball and like wedding thing, and like they're expecting him to see him like in like a fancy situation, right? And then the first thing they see is like him getting arrested. I feel like that irony was pretty good.
I do think something we forgot to mention was how in the beginning, like that Prince Charming like talks about his quest and stuff, and he like finally arrives at the castle, and the grandmother wolf is sitting there, and like I don't know when he says that. I think he says it later, but he references like a cross-dressing wolf or something.
Oh yeah. A gender confused wolf.
A gender confused wolf. Yeah, that was funny. So many good scenes, yeah.
And next time I pull up to a McDonald's, I'll definitely ask for the medieval meal.
The medieval
if I
meal?
don't get another axe, like I would be disappointed.
Yeah. It's time to start a crusade. All right, we'll move then to the Jar Jar Binks Award. So, which character is the biggest meme? So this was a little bit hard for me. Like, there's a lot, but I think I had to settle on Donkey. He's super funny. He has really clever lines. One that like we've talked about a lot, like outside of this, but like when Puss in Boots shows up and he's like, "Watch out, Shrek! He's got a piece." And he's got a sword. And then like just like a lot of the scenes, like the dinner scene was really funny with Donkey. I think he's my pick.
Speaking of Donkey, unrelated to my favorite character, but related to that, have you seen the theory about what Donkey actually is?
Oh, yeah, he's the Pinocchio kids or whatever.
Yeah. So like, if you haven't heard, for the viewers or Makthal, if you haven't, but it was like basically every character in Shrek is like a fairy tale character, right? Which is like, oh, okay, like you got the 3 blind mice, you got the gingerbread man, all that. And I was like, who is Donkey from? And there's like this really in-depth analysis, and they concluded that like, first off, I don't remember Pinocchio that well, but in Pinocchio, when they go to the island and the boys get turned into donkeys, there's like substantial evidence that Donkey is one of the boys who was turned into a donkey and escaped. But it's kind of dark if you think about it. But yeah, this is just a side note. For me though, memeable character-wise, I'd probably have to go with the blind mice just because they're my favorite. The blind, like, I don't think there's a scene that they're on where they're just not the butt of the joke, and like that's kind of sad. But that's the biggest meme is like it's just so funny. But very close second, I would say, just not looking at potential is Prince Charming. Just because
yeah, like, that's fair.
he's like such a he's like the stereotypical whiny kid, but also like a lot of the time he's kind of like what we talked about Ken in the B movie when he's just
I was about to say
what's
that.
going on. He's like he's the only one who's like, does anyone else find this a little absurd? Like he was right. He's like, I found a gender confused wolf. It's like, okay, it's like a joke and all, but like he's right. Like he went to find this and he just sees like this wolf reading a magazine dressed in like grandmother clothes. So I think he's a close second just because he's like self-aware.
Yeah, I gotta appreciate your awareness of like the blind mice as like a memeable character because like they don't get a lot of screen.
He slept on, yeah.
Yeah, so like I appreciate that, but I definitely had to go with Donkey, like no question, just because like the lines are too clever, like, and anytime he's on screen, like he's gonna say something like witty, quirky, like something funny. And like I think Eddie Murphy does like a pretty good job at.
Eddie Murphy's so good, yeah. He's such a good comedian.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, some of my favorite moments with Donkey was like when they're doing like the first dinner scene, and like they're arguing and whatnot. He's gonna be like, okay, I'm gonna go to the bathroom, and immediately like the food comes out, and he's like, oh, I can hold it. And then as the food is being placed on the table, he's like, oh, Mexican food, I love it. It's like not Mexican. Yeah, that was pretty good. Also at the potion factory, when Puss was actually looking through like all the different potions, one of them happened to be like a toadstool softener. And then Donkey's like, yeah, because a good BM is really going to help with your marital problem.
Yeah. They're all clever and they're all like, he's smarter than he lets on. Like
Sujay, you looked up some trivia, right? Slash you know a little bit. Was Eddie Murphy a writer in these?
I didn't see that. He might have written he might have done like a lot of like improv and stuff as Donkey.
Yeah. Because
Like,
a lot of the jokes he says are like very Eddie Murphy-esque.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if
you've seen some of his stand-up, he basically sounds like Donkey in some of his jokes. Like he says the same exact stuff he would like sometimes. So I wouldn't be surprised if he wrote some of those jokes.
Yeah. All right. Well, we use that as a segue to our 5 minutes of internet trivia. So some interesting stuff that I found out. So this was the first sequel ever nominated for an Oscar as Best Animated Feature. It didn't win, but it was first to be nominated. Still made $7.2 million worldwide and was the biggest opening for an animated movie, beating out Finding Nemo. And then it kept that title for like 3 or 4 years until Toy Story 3 beat it. So it was a pretty successful movie. Moving on, Shrek's. Yeah, Toy Story 3. Oh no, in the Oscars?
No.
Yeah, in the Oscars.
I can look it up real quick.
5 minutes and 10 seconds of internet trivia.
2005 Best Animated Feature. Oh, The Incredibles. That's why.
Yeah,
Incredibles is a good movie. Like, yeah. But yeah. So Shrek's face, the reason that it's so expressive is because the animation has 218 working muscles in it, which is insane, like, for an animated movie. Puss in Boots was originally conceived as an English character until they felt that his character would be too similar to Lord Farquaad from Shrek, so they made him Spanish. For that reason, I think I was looking up some of the people who were considered for Puss in Boots. So there was Tim Allen, Sylvester Stallone, and Harrison Ford. So
if they were going for like the Spanish feel, like I don't think anyone could have done better than it was Antonio Banderas, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think anyone could have done better than him if it was like they were going for Spanish. But if they were going for like the British, I could see some of those guys.
And they're also trying to make Puss in Boots like a play off of Zorro, and that makes sense why they would choose Antonio Banderas then. So
imagine if it was Harrison Ford though. Like, what would the meme be? Like the cat swung first.
The cat swung first.
Yeah, something like that.
I don't think I could see anyone else as him if they went for the Spanish feel.
Originally, Dragon from Shrek was to have a much major role and turn into like a Pegasus when Donkey drank the potion, but they cut most of that out, and yeah. Yeah,
can we talk about how Donkey fucks a dragon? Like, and has like, how does this work? No, that's That's a weird plot point in my opinion.
Fairy tale, bro.
It is fairy tale.
It's the unlike B movie, like since it sets itself up as like a magical like setting, like you don't have to worry about all those like implications that you have to do in the B movie at least. So
yeah.
I guess it
You know
saves
it's
itself in that sense. Yeah.
All right. Last trivia point that I looked up. This is a question. You guys don't have the DVD, so I don't know if you've watched these, but do you guys know what Far Far Away Idol is?
I mean, I can take a guess.
Okay, so basically in the DVD release of the movie, there was like this like extra like little piece of like it was like kind of like a game, but like it was like Far Far Away Idol, and they'd have all the characters like sing a song and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And the judges were Shrek, Fiona, and Simon. So like,
oh, Simon's in this.
Simon Cowell, yeah.
Did he offer his voice for that? Like,
I guess
so, like the character is like his actual voice.
Yeah, and it's so like you can like choose the winner at the end of it, and so like there's like a whole host of characters, like there's 11 different ones, and so if you choose anyone besides Shrek, Fiona, Donkey, and Puss in Boots, Simon will say like, I refuse to choose this person as the winner, and then will sing his own song and say that he's the winner.
Wait,
which I thought was really funny.
You're saying Shrek and Fiona are also the judges, though?
Yeah, they're judges, and at the end, they like also perform. It's honestly pretty good. Like you should see it. Like it's on YouTube probably.
Is it like so you get to interact and you get to like pick who you?
Yeah, you pick the winner, and so there was a link to like vote for the ultimate champion, and they found out after 3 days that everyone voted for like the majority of people, 750,000 votes were for Doris, which is the ugly stepsister, and like
the bartender lady, right?
Yeah.
If we're being honest though, Fairy Godmother wins that easily, dude.
She wasn't in it.
Okay, but I Need a Hero is one of the
most iconic. Like
it's the cover of an album that's better than the original.
Right. Like I guess like I was kind of shitting on the B movie for doing a cover of Here Comes the Sun, right? But this
was
situation,
a better cover.
Like, this is like where it's like okay, yeah.
You can.
Sense.
This is fine because this is like a good cover. Like this is what. Yeah. Listen to this cover of like the original at some point, like.
Right.
Yeah. That was all the trivia I looked up, but I wanted to bring up the theory that we've talked about that I brought up like years ago when we watched Shrek together, which is that this movie is a metaphor for interracial relationships. So here's my evidence for Makthal. I don't think I've told you this, but so basically the ogres are supposed to represent Black people, and like that's why and Shrek is like doubtful that Fiona's parents will accept him because it's supposed to be like an interracial relationship. And so like right off the bat, the king starts making like wild assumptions and like stereotyping Shrek and stuff. He says stuff like an ogre from a swamp, how original. And so like that's like a metaphor for like a Black person from the hood, like how original. And then like he says stuff like, I don't want like the children being brought up there and stuff like that. And then like Fiona tells Shrek, you're behaving like an ogre, and Shrek says, whether your parents like it or not, I am an ogre. So that was my evidence for it. And the king wants Fiona to marry Prince Charming, who's like of course a pretty white boy. So that's why I think that this movie is a metaphor for interracial relationships.
I mean, I felt the same way too. Like it seems pretty obvious if you ask me.
Yeah, that's the conclusion I came up with like after like numerous watches, because I watched this as a kid. I just obviously didn't think of that.
I mean, I don't know about like any specific races that it's trying to like attribute to, but like it seemed to me like okay, they were trying to like push for this idea, and like it sold it. So
yeah, it might be more obvious for if you watch it now, but when I watched it as a kid, I didn't pick up on that. All right, that's all the trivia I have. We'll then keep going to most underrated. So we'll do our most underrated scene first. I'll say that my most underrated scene was the accidentally in love scene in the beginning. Like I think that was really good. Like it was super cute, great way to start the movie. There's a lot of like I said, there's like a lot of like references jam packed into like that whole like 1 minute, 2 minute clip. There's a lot of movie references. They reference Spider-Man when he's like hanging upside down and she kisses him. Yeah. Lord of the Rings with like the ring that he gets her and then he falls onto her finger, and then like the slow motion running scene that they do, and then all the pitchforks start coming after them. So I said
Little Mermaid's in there too.
Yeah, that too.
Oh yeah, true.
Yeah,
I think I only really picked up on the Spider-Man reference just because, like, that's what I would most recognize out of all those.
I think for me, most underrated scene, and I say like because we said it's like I think it doesn't get enough credit, but it's kind of proven because in this whole podcast we have not talked about Gingy.
Yeah.
I think that's underrated in that like it's not. I think it's because everything.
You mean you're talking about the Mongo scene, right? Like where he's like.
Yeah. Mongo, yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's. I mean, like, I think it's for the same reason a lot of things go unnoticed in this movie, that it does some parts really, really well. And like you focus on this because the jokes are so funny. And the manga part doesn't have too many like not good jokes, but like most of the jokes are pretty like puns. They're like pretty easy setups. Like, you know, like, oh, he's a gingerbread man. They throw like hot milk on him. Like it's not like very well crafted jokes, but like the scene as itself is still a good scene, and like it gets slept on because there's a lot of other scenes that go on at the same time, like the break-in and the whole plan, and the fact that I Need a Hero is like in the background and stuff too. So I think that's the good scene that doesn't get talked about enough.
See, I didn't pick that one. Like, that's actually my favorite scene in the movie, but I didn't pick that one because, like, it's at the same time as the I Need a Hero sequence. So, like, I would have figured, like, okay, this is the part that everyone would like. So I didn't think of it as, like, an underrated scene. So what I went with instead was actually the whole potion heist, just because, like, I thought it was really entertaining to, like, see them just try to, like, avoid the people once they're spotted, and they figure out a way to get out by like pouring the potion like juice thing.
Yeah, there's like a lot of like shit going on right there, and you just don't know what's happening.
It's just action packed. Like that's what I like about it. And then of course also like those like potion like quips, like you know like the whole.
Have you seen
ED thing?
Have you seen like the mathematical analysis or like physics analysis on that scene where he talks about how like Shrek picks up these barrels of milk and like those should weigh like tons of pounds, and he like casually picks it up and like crushes someone with it. And he's just so like agile and the whole scene. It's like this funny analysis, but
I actually have not seen that. That actually kind of reminds me of like Vsauce 3.
Yeah, I know channel. Yeah.
Yeah, he does like a lot of those like pop culture like analyses of like scientific principles and whether it is like actually possible. It actually kind of reminds me, like I saw this meme recently where it's like a picture of Ash Ketchum, right?
Yeah.
And he's like holding a Larvitar.
Yeah.
And then in the Pokédex entry for Larvitar, it says that it's like 160 pounds, and he's just like holding it like this in his hands. Like immediately after that, it's just like Ash ripped.
Yeah. I'll say I thought the ending was really epic too, and that's why I didn't say it, because I thought that was a given because of the holding out for a hero, and then just like the whole like fight scenes that they do too. I will say honorable mention too you said something.
Yeah, I'm just saying that because like I thought out of everything that happens in that finale, like that's the least talked about, you know, because like everything else is like the breakout and then the song and then Shrek like coming in and stuff like that's all like super iconic. So I just thought like kind of gets like swept under, but I don't know, maybe.
I see you too.
Yeah.
Okay, later as well.
I would say an honorable mention scene would be like the first time that they ride into Far, Far Away, because once again, there's like a lot of quick references and jokes. If you take notice on like all of the buildings, like every single store is like a pun on like some fairy tale and like a real store. So I looked them up, and some of them were like Versace, like Versace plus Archery, Burger Prince, Baskin Robin Hood, Abercrombie and Witch. So just like so many like different like scenes, and like every building has one, which I thought was really clever. It was also cool seeing like all the princesses like taxels like leading up to the main one. So you saw like Rapunzel and like some other ones as well.
That's also like kind of a spoof because like you can go see like celebrities' houses and Far, Far Away like the
like the whole thing is based on Beverly Hills or like Hollywood or something like that. So it was really cool scene too.
It was interesting also because like later on in the movie when they're doing like the whole like TV coverage of like the ball. Like it's like the whole red carpet thing. You have people like I'm pretty sure the presenter was probably also a spoof of like a real person, but I can't put my finger on like exactly whose name that was.
No, for sure. They really did lean heavily into the whole like Hollywood parody kind of thing.
Yeah. It was well done.
All right, we can go to underrated character next. So, I guess mine was kind of like what you said, Girish, but like my underrated character was the gingerbread man, Gingy.
Yeah.
I said he's the one who like noticed on the TV that like they're in trouble, and he's like, yeah, we got to go save them. So he like I guess made the plan. He's like the mastermind. He was the inspiration behind Mungo, and then like watching him say bye to Mungo, that was like a really emotional scene. That's also another reference too. When
it's
he says
Iron Giant, right?
No, it's E.T.
Oh, I thought the scene was like very Iron Giant reminiscent, but I never noticed what he said.
Yeah, when he says "be good," that's an E.T. reference. So that's what I said, Gingy.
That's good. Yeah, I said Blind Mice before. I guess I would say they're kind of underrated. I don't just point of not wanting to like repeat myself, kind of, because even though my main criteria for the meme character was that he's underrated, I will say one of the other ones is like the dad, because Fiona's dad, I forgot what his name is. Like I think they just call him like King something, but I think he's underrated. Like he actually has, in a movie where it's like so absurd and there's like a very straightforward plot and like a villain, he has some like the best character development in the entire movie. You know, like starts off like very close-minded, like he's like, I want to control my daughter's wedding and all that. And by the end of the movie, he like sacrifices himself and turns back into a frog.
Yeah.
And
then you learn why he's like that. It's because like he himself had
it's good. People don't talk about. He has good character development.
If we still did Zuko Award, I'd give it to King Harold.
Yeah. He changes so much through the movie. He literally hires an assassin and he goes from that to saving the same guy with his.
Gets over his racism. Like there's
he's so much he goes through. People don't talk about that enough.
Most dynamic. I mean, I'm definitely thinking like the same way. I'd probably say Mungo specifically, but like probably close second Gingerbread Man. Like there was this game that on like the PS2 and Xbox like a long time ago. It was like basically Marvel Ultimate Alliance, but it's like Shrek. I would always play as Gingerbread Man. He had like the best attacks.
What are all these video games that you're telling me for these movies that exist now? Like
the whole B movie thing was just for me trying to like find that scene. But like I actually played this game specifically. I remember because like a few of my friends had it. I don't know. I just like Mungo because like
you have the high base.
He's just cool, you know. Like that's pretty much it. He doesn't get a whole lot of screen time, but when he does, it's pretty epic.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I just gotta give it to Mungo.
True. I'll say I didn't mean to come up with 2 honorable mentions for both these, but I said an honorable mention was also for the fairy godmother. I think she was very like a compelling villain. Like she was like scary, calculating. Like she did her part. Like
she did good. She tried her best and she failed, but you can't be mad about that, you know.
No, but like like she was kind of guiding the whole process, and she had a plan, and her performance of holding up for a hero, breathtaking. But yeah, I guess that brings me to my underrated aspect of the movie, the score. The score for this movie, full of bangers, man. Like I wrote them down as I was watching the movie. So like I have like 8 or so songs here, like Accidentally in Love, starting it off with a banger, Funky Town, Little Drop of Poison, I Need Some Sleep, Holding Out for a Hero, and then at the end, Livin' La Vida Loca. Like all of those.
Oh yeah, Livin' La Vida Loca's at the end. Damn.
Especially in the credits they do like a remix of Holding Out for a Hero, and that was so fire. Like I don't know why like it was that good, and they like had it in the credits, and I was like, God damn.
I didn't make it that far on the credits, so like
I kind of.
No, it was at the beginning of the credits, like right after they do Livin' La Vida Loca.
I just assumed that was the end.
I went into the credits.
I would say, I guess another aspect for me is, we mentioned it a lot before, but I think it holds up very well through the test of time. Like a lot of movies that are comedies especially rely a lot on pop culture references, and that's why if it's not like a well-crafted joke or something, after a few years it comes hard to follow. For a movie that was in like 2004, I think it's very underrated that just the jokes still land, you know? Talked about it a lot. But yeah, that's mine, I guess.
Yeah, for me, like the most underrated aspect, like you would expect this sort of thing to be at the forefront of a movie, but like for me, it's like the underlying like themes of love and acceptance. Like that's like basically what the movie's about. But then like we're watching it because there's like so many good like jokes and memeable moments, right? So like generally speaking, like somebody will probably pick this up because they like that aspect of it. So the actual underlying theme of the movie can sometimes get like overshadowed by that. And I know you guys like brought me onto this podcast to provide like an extra meme perspective, but like I gotta say, like this movie does like the actual like serious aspect of it pretty well as well.
Yeah. For sure. All right. If there's anything that's underrated, we can move on to our last category, overrated. So I'll start with overrated scene. In addition to whatever you said about Puss in Boots, I think that's a really good point. But my overrated scene is going to be like Fiona like accepting that Prince Charming was Shrek. I don't think for a second she would believe that this was actually Shrek. Especially like he acts like such a like dumbass. He acts exactly like Prince Charming, like not at all like Shrek. So like I don't understand how she like believed for like that long that he was Shrek. That's my.
Yeah. I agree with that. I was gonna say that's my overrated scene. Just the fact that like he's like, I'm sure, and she's like, are you feeling all right? And he just like says something. He's like, okay, like I guess. Yeah, it's definitely something she overlooks a lot. Like it was kind of just glossed over for the plot.
For me, like when the fairy, like it was with respect to that scene, like when the fairy godmother said that, okay, we can use this to our advantage. Like I actually didn't know where that was going. I probably should have, but like for me, it was like kind of a shock for that whole plan to play out. And I kind of like just went with it because with the way the plot developed, like she knew that Shrek took a potion, right? So I think she was willing to at least suspend her belief to the point that, like, say, I have doubts, but like maybe this is what he did, right? So
yeah,
I don't know. That's how I react to that particular. But yeah, like you mentioned, and like I mentioned before, for me, it's definitely like the way they introduced Puss in Boots. It should have been done a lot better. Like even if he is like a cute cat or whatever, he had to be at least. And
he's
like,
a world-renowned hitman. Yeah.
Yeah, like he even demonstrated it when he was trying to like buy time for them to get to the ball, right? Like he was taking on all those knights by himself, but when he's like put up against Shrek, he's like.
Shrek is
It's basically like that dog.
He gives
meme,
up
right?
so easily, like yeah.
Yeah, it's that dog meme where it's like, okay, the left side is like this big buff dog, like I can do this and that and this and that, and then the second right side is like this little dog. Little dog is when he's up against Shrek.
Yeah, like he just gave up. Like he tried, like he injured him a little bit, and then Shrek just picks him up, and then it's over. Like.
I don't know if it's because like they didn't have the budget to make the movie run for like another 15 minutes, but like if that was like a full-fledged like fight scene, like I think that would have worked a lot better to like introducing Puss as a character. So
that kind of brings it to another point. They don't show a lot of like actual fighting in this movie. You know what I'm saying?
It's not supposed to be like a movie.
It's like a very comedic kind of conflicts every time something happens.
I mean, just something to sell that like this is a character that you need to like be careful, I guess.
Okay,
if you didn't already know who he was, right? Like
yeah.
Have you guys seen the
sense of like danger, I guess. I don't know.
Have you guys seen the Puss in Boots movie?
I have.
I haven't.
That's like prequel to this, right?
Tip. I think it's prequel. I can't remember. I watched it a long time ago.
Because like in that movie, they like describe his origin story as like he's like friends with Humpty Dumpty, and then he gets like run out of his town because he like accidentally helps him like steal something, and then like I don't know at what point he becomes an assassin for hire, but like I feel like that's a bridge that they need to like it's a gap they need to cross here. Like
I don't know how many of the 9 lives they covered in that movie, but I remember like one of them, since I like the potion scene so much, was that he said he was like the great cat burglar of. Like, I forget what town it was.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about, but I don't know if that's what he was referencing. But...
Probably not, but I just thought I'd throw that in there.
Yeah. All right, we can go to overrated character next. So I said my overrated character was Prince Charming. because I think
Yeah.
he's such a bitch, like compared to his mom, who's like.
But like that's the
she's
point,
bad.
though. That's the point, though. Like
That
you're
is, but
supposed
he's
to hate
also
him.
basically useless without her. Like,
Yeah.
like he just comes off as super pompous and like he can't do anything on his own. Like he's the villain in the third movie, which is like that's why it's so much worse compared to these ones because he's the villain. And like he doesn't really have like any like plans or like genius or anything like that. He's kind of just like he's just generic like tough like guy. Like he kind of does remind me of Ken. Not that you mentioned it, but
Yeah. This was a tough one for me because I feel, other than what you said about Prince Charming, I feel like a lot of characters in this movie kind of did what they were supposed to, or they weren't like talked about enough. So like, just hear me out, okay? I think Fiona's like a little overrated. Let me tell you why. Okay, like first off, like it's in the beginning she's like all fine, right? Like she's like, oh, like my parents are gonna be like just like will go with it, like they don't know about this. She's like on Shrek's side. But then like she doesn't do anything to like cover up her like previous like that she wanted to marry like she wanted to marry a prince or something. She was like always dreaming about Prince Charming, and she kind of just never addresses that she was like disappointed when Shrek came and stuff. And obviously she's like not anymore, but she's kind of like very oblivious to a lot of stuff that happens. And like especially in the scene when Shrek comes, Prince Charming comes, he's like, I'm Shrek. Like that's kind of just like she kind of just like is there, you know? She doesn't really do anything to help Shrek out. She's kind of just there, and she's like they're just kind of reduced to like a damsel in distress again, like she was in the first movie.
I think those are some fair points. Like I see where you're coming from, because like when he read like the diary thing, it's like where did that transformation from like that image of love that she had to like the new, like maybe it was something in the first movie. I don't know. I haven't seen that in a really long time, but yeah, maybe it was like okay, drawing a little more from like how that developed, and then putting it in the context of the movie that might have helped. For me, I'd probably have to go with Prince Charming as well. He's really just kind of like a puppet. Like he's just there.
Yeah.
He's pretty useless in the whole movie, yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
which is why I'm surprised they made him the villain of the third one, because like he doesn't have anything left. Like
yeah, the third movie was tough, dude.
Yeah, it was very.
I think it's the worst one.
To be fair, it's kind of hard from him in the second movie too, though, because like he's in the shadow of like probably like the greatest villain in like the Shrek
franchise,
in the Shrek universe.
So,
the
Shrek cinematic universe. The SCU.
I guess there is that, but yeah, I'd have to agree with Sujay here. It's probably Prince Charming for me.
Yeah, I also agree with some of the stuff you said about Fiona. Her role in like the different Shrek movies. I think the fourth one is where she has role.
The fourth one is
I like
her, yeah.
That was a Fiona movie, I guess. Yeah.
I'll talk about this once we get to Overrated Aspect, but yeah, I think the fourth movie is when Fiona was really like, even though she's technically the centerpiece of almost all of these, except for maybe the third, because I think third is more about the prince who's like supposed to be king and all that. But I think in the other three movies, she's the main centerpiece, but she's kind of just like the classic fairy tale princess and like doesn't really do much, except a little in the first movie when she proves like she's kind of against stereotypes. But like other than that, she kind of just chills for most of those movies.
Okay, then yeah, we can go to overrated aspect. So I said my overrated aspect was there was a lot of jokes that were risque that like I don't think they could put in a movie today. We talked about the gender confused wolf thing. I don't think that's PC anymore. They also like called her chariot driver. She refers to him as sexy man boy Kyle, which I think has a lot of issues with it. When they're in that same factory scene that you mentioned, when they're like trying to get the potion, after he drinks it, he's like, "Do I look any different?" And Puss is like, "You still look like an ass to me," which I was like, "What? Like, how did they get away with that?" And then there's like Pinocchio, who was like wearing a thong, and I just did not understand why that was there. Like, I don't know what DreamWorks has this like, it has the like, I guess the ability to like be a little bit more like non like they're not like Disney like where they have to like censor themselves and keep everything to like a family friendly environment. They're a little bit more open with their like adult jokes, but like still some of these I don't know if they would pass today. That was my overrated aspect.
I mean, they definitely fill like a role in like the animation like industry, because like you have companies like Disney and then like Pixar, they're putting out these wholesome movies, right? And that's like their bread and butter. But then you got DreamWorks out here who are also making like some good movies. Maybe not all of them are good movies, but there's some that are good. But you always can rely on like, okay, they're gonna do like the risky stuff. Like,
Yeah.
you know,
I guess that's like the kind of like type of movie they're aiming for. I agree. Yeah.
right.
Yeah. For I guess yeah. So I talked about this a little before, but for my overrated point, so it was kind of tough for me to like figure out how to explain it, because I said it earlier, a lot of the stuff they do in the aspect of the movie, since it is a satire on like the plot of movies, it's so hard because everything they do is over. It's like, oh, they were just like messing around. But I think my most overrated part was how the plot, or not the plot, but like what's the word? The MacGuffin, if you know what I'm saying, like just the plot device in every single one of these movies except for the third, is Shrek needs to find Tulo's kiss. Like in the first movie, like by a certain time too. Like the first movie, it's to like make sure she turns back into an ogre. In this one, it's to like make sure he doesn't lose his wife or something. And then in the fourth movie, it's to make sure like he doesn't do the contract. And I'm like, okay, like I guess this is a parody, but like you could have come up with like something a little different, you know? Like I guess you're trying to show that it's like very satirical, and it's like, oh, all these movies do this. But like you could comment on something else about them. Like you kind of already did this in the first movie, and they do it again in the fourth. So I thought that was a little overrated how they simplify the problem down. Like I'm fine with if they simplify the problem down a little bit. So like, because like obviously it's a satire, but like they could simplify it down to something else, you know?
But you see, but it wasn't solved with a kiss at the end. So
I guess.
I see what you mean.
Yeah, though. Like the goal, like it always turns once they get to like Act 3 of this movie, is Shrek gonna get a kiss. Like,
right.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'll give it the benefit of the doubt just because it was like 2004 at the time. I guess it was like long enough that wasn't too played out. Maybe it was to some extent, but maybe I'm not in like an animated movie. I don't know, like I honestly kind of forgot about the overrated aspect, because like after watching the movie, like I came out of it like enjoying like all of it pretty much, except for that one thing. So I didn't really have an overrated aspect, but yeah, I mean, I guess those are like fair points though.
I see what I really did have to like kind of dig deep, I said, like to find some ways.
Yeah, I don't have too much criticism of the movie.
Yeah, so. I'm like, you heard my argument. It was not like the best, but like I'm still like kind of grasping at still has to come with an point. But like, it's hard to in general. I really enjoyed this movie, like, and because I said earlier, everything is a satire, so it's hard to poke fun at it when it knows it's like doing this on purpose.
Right. And I guess like to further respond to Sujay's overrated aspect, like once again, this was like 2004, so you wouldn't have expected people to react to like these jokes the same way that people would now, right? So
that's what I'm saying. Like it's good, I liked it, but it's not a big deal.
Mm-hmm.
All right, anything else you guys want to say about the movie as a whole?
Good move. It's good.
Not really. Nope. Yeah, I think that's about it.
All right, cool. Well, thanks for being on again. And I have to figure out how to do an outro, like, because it's an outro into another outro.
Yeah.
I don't know.
All right.
Yeah, just end it like that. Just end with I don't know.
I don't know.
Thank you for listening to our episode on Shrek 2. If you haven't already, please give us a follow on whatever platform you're listening to this podcast on, and also follow our Instagram at Overrated Podcast. If you're listening to this on YouTube, please hit us up with a like and subscribe. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next week. This has been Overrated.